Buckle up for AEC Trailblazers, the Founders Files, where we crack open the stories of the brightest minds in the AEC startup scene. Forget institutional pitches. We're diving deep into the real personal journeys of these industry disruptors. Get ready for some casual chats firsthand.
Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of the AC Trailblazers podcast, where we interview the most amazing founders of the AC. Today with us, we have Nitin Bhandari. He's the CEO and co-founder of Planera, a groundbreaking platform transforming construction scheduling through collaborative and visual CPM-based planning. With over a decade of experience in product design and software as a service, Nitin is on a mission to make construction scheduling intuitive, efficient, and accessible. Prior to Planera, he led product innovation at companies like Life 360, ZenLabs, and Skyfire, where he co-developed Rocket Optimizer, an NFB solution for mobile networks. Under his leadership, Planera has gained rapid adoption, powering construction teams to streamline schedules and deliver projects on time and on budget. Nitin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Valentin. It's great to be on your show. Big fan.
Thank you. That's an impressive bio. Did I leave something out of it?
No, I think you covered all the highlights. I think time has just flown by. This is my third startup, and when you're doing startups, time tends to kind of fly by. And weeks become months, become years very quickly. So as I heard you say this, I'm like, man, I'm old. I've been around for a while.
You're not old. You're just been pretty busy the last couple of years. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
I'm just curious. You have a fancy background. Where are you located now?
Like physically right now, I'm in my home office, which I never used up until, COVID happened. And so this place, this room in my house was completely untouched. And then when COVID happened, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to spend more time here. Let's make it a little bit more presentable. I'm just in my home office. You can see the putting green right behind me.
Oh,
and also the digital whiteboard, because we're a whiteboard company. Physical whiteboard, I mean.
Physical. Yeah. That's an impressive home office for sure. But you're based in the Bay Area, right?
That is right. Bay Area is home, and but we are a distributed company. We have talent all over the world, actually. But headquartered in Bay Area, yes.
Interesting. But let's not give spoilers to our audience. Let's start from the beginning. Like, how the hell you ended up in the AC? Or it was the first industry you started working on? Or can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah. Good question. I actually discovered the AEC industry recently. So I didn't grow up in the industry. I didn't grow up in the trades. I am an electrical engineer by background. So I got a master's degree in electrical engineering. This was back when, there was .com boom happening. Network infrastructure was being built. Some of your listeners and viewers probably remember those days of like late 90s. That's kind of like where my career started, is building, internet switches and routers and like complex systems like that. And so that's where I got the foundation of really complex systems and how they come together and interdependencies. And it all kind of like comes full circle eventually. But if you think about it, building a large like internet router or a switch is just like building a very, very complicated construction project, right? Lots of dependencies, lots of trades, lots of critical paths here and there. We just use different language back in that industry, but very similar concepts. Then from there, I became a software entrepreneur. I did a company that is called Skyfire. It was built around mobile video streaming and optimization back when like mobile internet was very new. We started the company just before iPhone was launched, and then iPhone launched, and that just became amazing for us because suddenly everyone wanted to watch videos on the phone and they wanted to consume data, and all these data networks were just dying, right? And so our software helped them, like Verizon, Vodafone, T-Mobile, they use our software to optimize their networks, so to keep up with demand.
Interesting.
And then from there, I did another startup. But anyway, to answer your question, as I was wrapping up my second startup, after the acquisition of that, I was thinking about what to do next. And my very good friend, who's now co-founder of Planera, Saif Lodi, he had been running a heavy civil engineering company for 30 years, maybe 35 years. They do complex projects, mostly heavy civil. And he kept telling me how innovation has touched many parts of their business, except the most important in his mind was this concept of scheduling and planning. Like the act of scheduling and planning was so important. And he's the one who pulled me in. And I'm sure we'll get into details later, but just to answer your question, sort of, he's the one who pulled me in. And as I started understanding the industry and the challenges, I just got fascinated. As an entrepreneur, I was like, wow, I can't believe such a large industry has such a wide gaping hole in one of its very important workflows. So that was 4 years ago. I've learned a lot in the industry, but still a lot more to learn.
He's the one to blame for your suffering, for taking you into the.
I must say I'm having the time of my life, because building software for real people who are building the real world is just really gratifying, right? Like building software that invisibly runs the internet, it's important, but it's not as exciting as building software that real people use to build the real world.
No, I absolutely. I'm an architect as a background, and I would say I think that the most fascinating thing of the profession is that you design a building, right? And the building is going to be there for your whole lifespan, right? So it's so interesting that you help put together something that is going to be there forever, or at least for the time you spend on this planet.
and in some ways, it's like your signature is on that building. When people are driving back and forth, it's reflecting on Valentine in some ways, right? So that's
yeah, or in Nitin and Planera.
Yeah.
But you get to do it in many buildings at the same time. But before getting into the problem, I'm just curious, you being an electrical engineer, right? And you being on the .com era and that boom you spoke about, infrastructure, right? Do you think there is another boom going on right now with, or there is a boom, but what do you think about the current boom on data centers and everything related to that from an electrical engineer perspective?
Oh, I think it's both very exciting and I think unstoppable. The demand for compute will never slow down. And I don't use terms like never and always very often, but this is just an unstoppable trend, right? Like the amount of compute we will need as the society becomes more and more intelligent and productive. Like if you think about like where we might have to be in 10, 20, 30 years if we're going to solve these massive world problems, like, scalable cure for cancer, solve all these diseases, go to Mars, whatever it is that you believe in, all of that is just going to require like not 10x, not 100x, but like, 1000x, millionx kind of compute, right? So I think data center demand will continue going up. We see that, obviously. If it's not this, it's that. If it's not AI, it's cryptocurrency. If it's not cryptocurrency, it's synthetic biology. There's just so many things that and if it's none of that, it's TikTok videos, right? Like so,
Yeah.
So something or the other will just keep taking up as much compute and bandwidth as we give people. They will come up with use for it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And something to realize also, it's like everybody wants to build data centers nowadays because it's the, I think the FOMO or whatever. Like all construction companies want to be involved in there because these are like big projects, but people shouldn't forget that they're extremely much more complex than building a house or a commercial building. Like, or in my experience, it's just insane the complexity that you deal when building data centers. Even when the concept is simple, right? It's just racks and CPUs and GPUs and some HVAC for cooling the system, but it's so much more than that. And I'm just curious also if you have been involved in any kind of project related to a data center, because when I was involved, for me, it was a surprise that even when this is the top technology in the world, the way it was being built, it was like old school drawings and the schedules in Primavera and schedules being always delayed and nothing made any sense. And it was like, what? Are we building the most technological building in the world and we're using technology from the last century? I don't know what your experience on that.
Yeah, we are involved in not one but multiple data center projects. The most exciting thing for me for a data center project is actually two things. One is there's this sense of urgency, right? Every day that you can build it, either before the deadline or whatever, right? There's a very specific economic value to the owner and hence to the GC, right? So there's this sense of urgency, and hence there's this, everyone's rowing in the same direction, right? Everyone just wants to solve the problem rather than litigate the problem, rather than finger point, rather than be stuck in a change order loop forever, right? Kind of thing, right? So there's this energy, not like actual energy, but this electric energy in terms of problem solving. And that's really good, because that's what Planera is all about, is how do we make sure that everyone's on the same page and information is flowing in real time, as opposed to with a week or two of latency, because it's this P6 schedule that's printed as a PDF, which is being emailed back and forth, and people are just like, oh, what the heck is all of this, right? So I love data center projects. We have many of them on that are being run on Planera, and it's just fun when everyone's just like rowing in the same direction to get stuff done quickly, right? And with a sense of urgency.
No, absolutely. And I think that's another trend in the industry, that everything used to be change orders, finger pointing other subs or the GC or the architects, and it was never about solving problems. It was just about caring about my silo where I work, and then if I have to blame other people, I will blame it. And I also think it's going to change in the way contracts are done, because like if, for example, architects are T&M, so they don't care. I mean, no offense, I'm an architect and I can say that they don't care about efficiency, because why would they? If they're not going to get any more money if they do it faster. On the contrary, they're slower, they get more money.
Yeah, because it's T&M sometimes, most of the time.
Yeah, most of the times it's T&M. And I feel there are smaller problems like that in the way contracts are created or managed on a project. And I think that's changing also, where like, hey, if the project goes bad, we all lose money, but if the project goes well, we all get money. I don't know if it's something that you also see a trend on that.
I absolutely. I tell my entire team that there is no such thing as AEC, like, or construction industry. There's delivery methods in the industry, right? That we all have to understand. Like the great Charlie Munger, and sometimes people attribute this to Warren Buffett, but it's a truism that, show me the incentive and I'll show you the behavior, right? Incentives drive behavior, right? And traditional methods are very litigious, very sort of like siloed. My co-founder often says, in those worlds, the schedule is either used as a shield or a sword, right? You're going to either defend yourself with it or you're going to hit somebody with it, right? But things are changing, right? There's a lot more collaborative delivery methods, which are very exciting, right? Where everyone's aligned, rowing in the same direction. And I think that transformation is going to keep happening more and more towards collaborative project delivery. Again, incentives drive the behavior.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And something that I was yesterday speaking with the owner of a really large GC in the Midwest, and he was convinced that he needs to implement AI or technologies on their company, or they're going to be behind. And what I was telling them is, yeah, technology for sure, you need to keep up with it and implement it, but it's not, the hammer is not the solution. First, you need to find out what's your problem. and then you can implement the technology on the right way. I feel that there are so many startups focused on, let's do this really cool thing with AI, which is really cool and fun, but doesn't make doesn't mean that the market will it's what the market needs. And I do feel that there's again so many companies trying to just implement technology and put some fancy names on top of it, and we need to focus more on processes and how you handle information from one client to the other, how we all even look at the same schedule, right? Something as simple as that. There's still construction sites where the owner has one schedule, the GC has another schedule, and each of these have their own. So it's like, how on earth are we going to coordinate all the different stakeholders if we all have our own schedule, right? And I bet it's something that you have a lot of experience and you deal with every day, right?
Yeah, no, I hear you. Are still way too many projects that work in that, like, hey, here's the contract schedule, but here's the actual kind of like working schedule. This is what we're working off of, but this is what we're gonna use for like moving the contract forward, right? But as I said, like, I think the industry, it's a huge industry. It takes time to change it, right? And it won't happen overnight, but increasingly we're seeing the trend towards using schedule as more of a business decision tool rather than a contract only tool, right? And contracts are being rewritten, or maybe delivery methods are being redesigned. Before we even started the company, I was convinced the problem's big, but I just wanted to like get a sense of it. So we commissioned like a survey agency to go poll 200 plus executives, right, on some of their top problems. And obviously you can get a survey to say whatever it is you want to say. That's not the point, but I just wanted to convince myself. And a whopping 78% of them said that collaborative scheduling, like, you know, if we can get everybody to collaborate on the schedule, both creation and updates of it, it's going to be a top 3 drivers of like profitability for their company. And so I think there's an awareness. I would say that maybe 5 years ago, that number would have been 12%, right? Not 78%. But as the industry is moving towards more and more collaboration in all other aspects of their work, they're like, this just makes sense. Why not here as well, right? And so that change has happened. That's a mindset and priority change. The behavior change will follow, right? But if people don't even think it's a priority, then obviously change won't happen, right? But now this is a top 3 priority for vast majority of the executives. And so now it's up to the industry to then provide them with the tools, provide them with practical innovation, not some theoretical pie in the sky idea, but something practical, right? Because this is our moment. If as an industry, as a construction tech software vendor industry, right, we can either provide people very practical things that they can truly have amazing ROI, or we can give people science projects and they'll try it and it'll set us back a long time, right? Because if they try it and it fails, we've lost a 3-4 year cycle then, right? And so echoing your points, I think practical innovation that can have, like, everyone can participate in that and see good ROI right away is going to be really important. And then sprinkle AI on top of it, right? Like, so it shouldn't be AI for AI's sake. It should be AI because it makes something very useful even better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you bring a great point on the awareness of the industry. And I think we're in the perfect moment of time because, like you said, I remember that, I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago, I think the industry was more of like, I've been doing this my whole life. You're not going to tell me how to do this, and we will keep doing this forever. And that's not even allowed anymore because there is so much competition and so technology is going so fast that if you do that, you're out of business real quick. So everybody knows that you need to improve and you need to change things. And for that, you need to work with other stakeholders. And I think it's amazing. Like, I was working with talking to a big GC and here in Florida, and they were telling me, like, you know what, we're not as much care of what to develop for ourselves, but what we should develop or what processes we should put in place so we're not a bottleneck for our subs. What we can do to improve the way they work. And for me, that's just incredible. Because they're not thinking on their own pockets, but they're also thinking, how can I make my subs life easier and be more advanced than my subs? And for me, it's just pure magic to hear that from a general contractor. But
yeah, and you know what? It's great that they're doing that, but I would even say that it's maybe, but probably not because of just purely goodness of their heart, right? I think they've all realized that in a labor constrained market, right, if they provide better information, better tools to their subs will want to do more jobs with them, right? And they can bid on more things. So there's a very good economic argument to actually be a good player to everybody on the project, right? Because let's face it, we're going to be labor shortage for a very, very long time in America, right? We have to like rebuild America, its aging infrastructure, and we're always going, no, again, always a very long time, but for a very, very long time, we will be constrained on labor, right? And so efficiency is very, very important. It's good for the bottom line of the GC. And if they do the right things for their subs, it's going to benefit them in the long term, right? And I think most people realize that now. They can't just treat subs like they used to, right? Now subs are trade partners, right? They're partners in the job. They're not just people that you bark orders to.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And until we have robots that work for us, which is not going to happen soon, for sure, labor shortage is going to be a thing, and for that, yeah, subs are more important than ever. Like and yeah, so many times subs are choosing the GCs they want to work with. So it's just.
Yeah. And you know, robots will hopefully make the cost of doing things less, which doesn't mean that suddenly we're done. We'll just probably do more projects with the same amount of money, right? Because there's just no shortage of things that we have to do in this country and around the world, right? And so I'm a believer in all this robotics and automation actually allowing us to do more, not that we'll just suddenly run out of work to do.
No, absolutely. And that's a really great point. Yeah, like it's like your company. The more efficient you can be is not that. Yeah, sure, you can get more money, but you will start investing more as well and doing more. It's not.
I am going to keep investing as much in R&D as I can. I'm not going to use AI to then hire less. I'll hire as much as I can because then I'll outcompete the next person who doesn't choose to invest.
Yeah, and you will do more. Exactly.
Yeah, I'll just take over bigger market share, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that unless you're just sort of like in a game of finite things, you know, you have to make X number of burgers and doing 2X the number of burgers doesn't matter. There's no demand, right? Then robotics might play a different role. But in our industry, there's just no shortage of things we can do to innovate and take more and more market share. So, you know, why would I use AI to then hire less people? I'll just use AI to do more things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm also really curious on, like, if you can tell me about cases, no need to name companies or anything like that, but I'm just curious on results that you have, implemented your product, and then suddenly you're like, damn, this is really good. We made this person's life 20% or 100%, 1,000% better. It's just insane. Like, have you ever been surprised by your own product on certain situations where you have implemented it?
All the time. The thing with a product like ours, Valentin, is that it's a tool that gives people superpowers, but what they do with it surprises us all the time. I can go through 2-3 examples without naming names. The company initially started with pre-construction and estimation and bid schedules and things like that, right? Because as you can imagine, taking on something like P6, right? The power of P6, you can do it right away. So initially we said, let's just build a great product for pre-construction and then we'll worry about schedule updates. Because, scheduling is really, really hard. And when you have to do updates, it's a level of complexity that we're like, okay, we'll do that at some point. Now we do it all, right? But initially, we started with pre-construction and bidding and estimation. And there were enough people that felt like they want a higher fidelity schedule even during estimating, right? A lot of times estimate schedule, like people do a lot of takeoffs but the schedule is very, very approximate. So we found some like-minded customers. They started using us. Then we were talking to them and they said, guess what we just did, right? We created this detailed schedule. It was a public works job. The job, like the owner wanted the job to be done in X number of months. They created 4 or 5 scenarios, 4 or 5 sequence of events, this, that, and were able to prove to the owner that, and they no bid with all this proof that we're no bidding because, it can be done and it needs at least 4 more months. And to their surprise, owners never respond to that. Owners actually came back, redid the bid to add extra time because they agreed with the GC. And instead of signing a unreasonable contract that then goes into litigation or things like that, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. They increased the time. These guys bid, won the job, right? That is sort of like the power of being able to articulate your thoughts with real data. So that was interesting. Then we have this tool where you could do Monte Carlo simulations. So basically, any uncertainty that you can think of, you can set up a simulation and you can do like 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 runs of that random simulation, and then get some confidence that, hey, if I want to be conservative, I need to look at 90% confidence interval. If I want to be aggressive, I can look at 50%, 60% probability. What would that do? And people started using this tool to quantify their risk register. So now when they're sitting with the owner and putting some dollar value, right? It's a very subjective thing. It's quite subjective. It's somewhat contentious. But when people can simulate it and say, hey, this is what the data is saying, the risk register started getting a lot better. The whole process became a lot more collaborative. Now, we thought people would use it this way, but it's really good to start seeing people do that, right? And then the most magical moment happened when we created this concept where the master schedule and the field schedule all runs now inside the same platform. So you could take like a slice of your 3-year long schedule, 3-4 weeks, look ahead, get all the trade partners in there, do like pull planning together, which otherwise would happen on a physical whiteboard with sticky notes. Now it happens in Planera, which is a digital whiteboard, multiplayer whiteboard. And people send us pictures of like all the trade partners sitting in the job site trailer doing brainstorming and pull planning in Planera. And the person, like the project manager at headquarters, has real-time visibility on how the working team is thinking about the schedule, right? So they're not like 3 weeks behind. They're getting this information in real time. They may or may not reflect it in the master schedule, but at least now there's full real-time visibility, right? And so at the field level, now there's participation and alignment. At the headquarters level, there's full visibility, right? So we have like tons and tons of pictures of like our customers doing this at the job site in the trailer with their trade partners, which is sort of really exciting and gratifying, right? Like if we can upgrade the software stack in the trailer, that's like the ultimate goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And technically you could even do it online, right? Not even the need to do it on the trailer, right?
Yeah. So imagine if one trade partner couldn't show up physically, right? Their input was not in the thing, right? But now they can be virtual. And so maybe 80% of the people can be there physically, but 20% couldn't be there. There's no reason why their inputs and their thinking shouldn't be reflected in the plan, right? And now you could do that, right? So sometimes it saves time, but often it's not to save time. It's just like they just couldn't make it, right? And so now their intelligence isn't captured in the plan. That sucks, right? Like that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah. Like I remember that prior to products like Planera, like when you had to do pull planning on the schedule, it was even a mess because you had to maybe share screen. Let's say you do it virtual because there are 2 guys who couldn't attend the meeting. You have to share the screen and then share a Primavera schedule, and then they need to look at the screen and tell you how to move it. And I was like, this should be a better way that you can just look it at your screen and then pay attention to the meeting. And if you want to move something or make a comment or whatever, you should be able to do it, not telling the guy who's moving the cursor to actually do it. And it was slow. I mean, and it was a pain in the butt, to be honest. Like,
I observed that way too many times. So as I told you, I was new to the industry. So as a new person, what you do, you become an investigator and a detective, right? And you just observe, unbiased. And I observed this over and over again, like a mid-sized GC to like ENR top 20. They all operate this way, right? This is one case where the larger companies don't have any kind of magical solution that mid-sized GCs don't, right? So I saw that across the spectrum, how people want to behave versus how software was getting in the way. And that was really the inspiration, is like software should allow people to be like do their best work, not get in the way, right? And their best work was happening when they want to collaborate, they want to do it all together. And that was sort of like the observation and the inspiration for us to build Planera the way it is that it needs the power that P6 Brick gives you, but it also needs to be easy, approachable, collaborative, right? And so you shouldn't have to choose between something that's powerful or something that's easy. That's a false choice, right? It shouldn't be an or, it should be an and, right? And that's kind of like what we're trying to do is it's powerful and easy, not powerful or easy.
Yeah, and even more in our industry, because we're used to simple stuff, right? Like drawings and how to do things. Like, we're not used to complex stuff. That's the reality. So you don't even have a choice. It's not like, I don't know, accounting software. I've seen so many, like SAP, or the so many products out there that are so complex, but accountants use them anyway because they're used to that. But in our industry, we're not used to that kind of complexity. The work is already too complex to add more and more complexity to it. But I love how you define, it might sound simple, like, hey, they just need a schedule that works. And it might so obvious, but I feel that people that come from outside the industry, for sure, you have the disadvantage that you don't know the industry, but you learn how it works. And at the same time, you're not biased to it. I, for example, come from the industry, and every time we have developed something, it's hard. It's hard because you think you already know how things are supposed to be. And that's so false. Even if I want to build a software for architects now, I bet if I don't get feedback, it's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword, I feel.
Yeah. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of value in knowing the industry domain really, really well. And that's why like more than 70% of the company right now is like deep domain experts at that, right? And so I don't want to over-index on this idea that outsiders can come and change. Like that's not practical, right? But sometimes some ideas like can exist from outside as well, right? But that's regardless. That's not the point. The point is that as software industry, we just need to meet people where they are, right? We can't expect these busy people to change how like their entire behavior to suit us. We have to try hard to meet them where they are.
No, absolutely. And I feel it's something that even if you produce a tool that it's super advanced, it might be too much because they already have so big problems that I don't need a fancy tool to do the whole I just need to solve a scheduling tool. I just need to do my bidding. I just need to do my contract. And then sure, if you can give me extra features, absolutely. But in so many cases, the problems are so big and so basic that we need to, like you said, find people, like go and find out where people actually are suffering. But and I'm also curious, like you have told me stuff that you're doing, which is it's already great, but what's next?
That's a great question. So the state of the product right now is that we have now successfully built something that goes all the way from the highest level of scheduling, let's call it L1, like milestone scheduling, all the way to like in the middle, like baseline, master schedule that can be progressed. You take a phase schedule, pull plan, you take a 4 week kind of a short interval, do look ahead, full plan. Everything all connected, right? So that's what I call full stack scheduling, right? Everything from level 1 to level 5 detail, all in the same platform. That is getting extremely well received by the industry. We'll keep making that better, right? That there's a lot of work to do in just making those use cases really good. What gets me more excited now is the next phase, right? The most important thing first is to get good data and a good plan in there, right? With everyone's participation. Now that you have this high fidelity data that is real time, right? It is not with 3-4 weeks of latency. It's not stuck in PDFs with scribbled notes, either handwritten notes or Bluebeam notes and Excel spreadsheets and this and that, right? Now we have real data, real-time data, and high-quality data. Now what we can do on top of that is the most exciting thing to me, right? Which is, why shouldn't software look around the corners and tell you what could potentially go wrong, right? Not that what will go wrong. I don't think software is smart enough to say in a construction project what will go wrong. It's too common. But what could go wrong, right? Hey, look out for these few things, right? And then do some kind of early prediction of what could go wrong, and then maybe even help you solve those things, right? Like there's 1,000 things you could do to solve it. What if software could distill it to like your best possible few options and then keep you in the loop and then help you figure out solutions for that. So those types of things are really exciting to me because I don't get too obsessed about an individual feature. I'm really obsessed about the overall vision, which is I want to create scheduling as something that is a business decision tool, right? Every day you should interact with the schedule to run the job and hence your business better, right? And so in service of that, we'll build a lot of things, but the overarching goal is to take schedules from a compliance tool that's done episodically to a business tool that you're using at least once a day, maybe multiple times a day, right? And anything that if we can do to move the industry in that direction, I think will be a huge net positive.
That's so interesting, and just highlighting the possibilities of things that might go wrong. That's already something that it's incredibly useful because you don't have a clue. Sometimes you don't have a clue that something like that might go wrong, and it also triggers a question for me. Do you think something like that will be something like something that might be a little bit generic for everybody, or it might be, for example, that every time I work with, let's say, a specific electrical subcontractor, that he always gets delayed on the last phase of the project. And I have already worked with this guy 3 times, and this is the 4th time that we're working together. Do you think that eventually you will get to a point that we'll be able to say like, hey, based on historical data, this guy, there is a probability that he might get delayed on this specific task? Be aware of it?
Yes, and yes, right? Like that's the beauty of getting high fidelity, good data into the system is that then machine and AI can churn through so many combinations and then bubble up the best insights to you, right? I believe that eventually, if we can bubble up insights, then humans can make the right last mile decision, right? But you're busy as a PM or a PX or a general superintendent. You're busy. You have so many things to do. Even if you wanted to do that analysis that you just mentioned, intellectually that makes sense to you. That maybe I should look at it. Where's the time, right?
No. There's so many.
You are so busy doing so many important things that a lot of things that intellectually make sense to you, there's just no time to do it. What if that wasn't the case, right? That's exciting. We already now have a thing called PPC, plan percent complete. What percent of the job of task that you said you'll complete, you're completing, right? If you're late, why are you late? Like variance reasons. But this is not hypothetical. You could today then slice and dice that data based on company name, right? So subcontractor, based on zones, location, all of these things that you otherwise couldn't do. Like today's tools make it impossibly hard to then go 1 or 2 steps deeper into that, right? You can do that right now, but we're not satisfied, right? Like right now you still have to go and click a button to then look deeper. maybe in the very near future, you wouldn't even have to do that, right? All these insights will just come to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was thinking that even if you have the time to the filter, to go back and look into historical data, like even if you had the time, it's going to take you so much time to do it. Like it might take you weeks just to analyze the amount of data and that's something AI can do it in less than a second. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's, I
And,
think,
and you might be on the right path, but there's a chance that there's nothing interesting in the data. So why invest a week of human time to then find there's nothing interesting when you could just invest some machine time, right? And if something great comes out of it, awesome. If nothing great comes out of it, well, that you'll still learn something, but you didn't waste a week of human time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, this is so interesting where you're going, and I could speak all day about AI and technology and different features. I know you're a busy guy, and I don't want to take more of your time. But before we wrap this up, can I ask you a couple of ping-pong questions?
Absolutely.
All right. If you can tell me a great AC software in our industry.
A great AEC software?
Yeah.
I mean, we're still fans of PlanGrid. At so many different levels, PlanGrid got it so right? It changed the industry. It met users where they were. It didn't make things too overly complicated. Executed really, really well. And I truly believe that it kind of changed the future of the industry forever. So I know now it's integrated into a lot of this other ACC stuff, but I would go and point to PlanGrid as an example of a great product and a great company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and a great exit as well.
Yeah, that too. Can't complain with that.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think is the next big trend in the AC?
I think it would be quote unquote trendy to say AI, but I'll take a different approach. I will say that the big trend in AEC is collaboration and involvement of people, right? Collaborative software is showing up everywhere. It's changing the way people actually do business. It's adding huge amounts of efficiency. Of course, AI to me is like salt and pepper. It'll be sprinkled, can't make a great dish without it, but it's not the dish in itself, right? And so I think that the big trend is easy to use collaborative software. It's kind of like in the industry, sometimes people say consumerization of the enterprise, right? Like AEC people will not want to keep using bad software for too much longer, right? So just good modern software which is collaborative, and it's gonna come up, take over all of the workflows in AEC industry.
Makes sense. If you could collaborate with any person in history, which person would you choose?
Oh my! Collaborate? Did you say collaborate?
Yeah, collaborate or work together, whatever type of project you want to work on.
Any person in history, I would go Steve Jobs. I would absolutely love to work with him, love to understand how his brain worked. A lot of people in my generation, when we were building products, we were always fascinated by Steve Jobs. Also a little bit of a flawed personality, right? But how he evolved over his life, right? Steve Jobs 1.0 versus Steve Jobs 2.0 was just so different. Taken far too early from this world. But I think he would be the one person I would love to somehow work with.
Yeah.
Have dinner with, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I'm with you on that. And finally, what's your favorite building in the world, and have you ever visited?
Favorite building in the world I have ever visited? Wow, that's a tough one. Modern or historic, or doesn't matter?
It can be something that's like my grandmother's house to the Burj Khalifa or Taj Mahal, whatever you feel it's your favorite building.
I would go either in the direction of Taj Mahal just for its beauty, or Colosseum for it's just if you think about when it was built and how grand and massive and impressive it is. I have to admit, I haven't been to the Great Pyramid of these like in Egypt. But if I go there, I think that might very quickly become my favorite structure in the world. It's in my to-do list, but I would go in the direction of like Taj Mahal or the Colosseum, just thinking about when it was built and what a human like feat of achievement that was.
And before we say goodbye to each other, can you tell everybody where they can learn more about Planera and on where they can contact you as well?
Yeah, for sure. Planera, new era of planning. So for people who are listening to us and not watching us, and planera.io is the website. If you'd like a demo, please come to the website. Just fill a simple form. We'll set up a demo for you. We didn't talk a lot about what the product is, but think of Planera as something that's as powerful as P6, but it has an interface that feels like a Miro or a digital whiteboard, and it's collaborative, and it behaves like a Google spreadsheet meets Miro meets P6. And it's built for all sorts of simple and complex use cases. So best place would be go to planera.io. And then I'm also on LinkedIn quite regularly. So Nitin Bandari, just as the name is, on LinkedIn. Those are sort of the two best ways to communicate. And I'd love to hear from your listeners.
All right. Yeah. Thanks so much for your time, Nitin. What you're building for the industry, it's really amazing. So thanks for taking the time to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your company.
Great. Thanks, Valentin. I really enjoyed this.
All right. Have a good day.
All right. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks to our listeners. If you like this content, you can find past and upcoming episodes in ascworks.everse.com and at all of our Everse social media. We'd love to hear from you and recommendations for new content, so leave us a DM and we'll make sure to catch it.